2021. Getting us ready for next school year, I'd like to introduce my office staff who are walking around the corner now. Mrs. Needham, our guidance counselor. Raise your hand, Mrs. Needham. Mr. Chisholm is our assistant principal. And both of them will be participating in this presentation this evening. Before we get into the slides, raise your hand if you've got an incoming fifth grader next year, which will be your first kid in the middle school ever. Okay, so raise your hand if you've got an incoming fifth grader. Keep your hand up if this is your first middle school student. All right. Welcome to middle school. One of the things that happens, one of the things that is just a part of what we are as a school is dealing with this thing called the middle school student. Those of you that have been through this before, you kind of already old hat at it. I myself have 4 children, my last of which is going to be actually going into high school next year. I had hair before my kids got to middle school. As you could see, it's gone as they made their way through. But something that's real important to understand is that middle school students undergo tremendous amounts of change during their time with us. Coming in as 5th graders and then leaving us as 8th graders, they come in and they might be this tall, and by the time they leave, they're 4 or 5 inches taller than I am. And sometimes those changes happen like this. It's amazing how often we'll come back from winter break and I'll look at a kid in the hallway and it's only 3 weeks later and I swear they've grown 4 inches in 3 weeks and put on 20 pounds. It's just amazing the changes that kids undergo. And while we can look at our kids and we can see those physical changes, they get taller, they get bigger, they get stronger, their bodies are starting to develop. There are some changes that occur that we don't necessarily see unless we look for them. Our kids are changing, they're changing mentally, their brain is developing, and it develops at a very rapid pace over these 4 years. They're also developing socially, and they're kind of trying to come into their own as social beings and kind of create these relationships that they see the rest of us in the adult world have. And they're trying to navigate all of this, all the while all of these other things that are happening. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Trey Kennedy. He is a comedian. The first time I saw any of his videos, the very first one I saw was Middle Schoolers Be Like, and it was part 1, and I laughed so loud, my wife thought something was wrong with me. She was getting ready to call the squad. This is part 3, and those of you that have had a middle school student, it just kind of typifies what life is like with a middle schooler.
I don't want to.
Young man, just do it.
Dear God, thanks, amen.
Are you serious?
Really? What? I prayed! Dear God,
no, too late. Get up.
What?
Hey, shoes off the table.
Why?
I said take your shoes off.
They're clean.
Young man.
Okay, I will in a sec.
No, you'll do it now.
I'm
now.
All right.
Okay, give me your phone.
I took them off. What do you want from me?
What's your attitude?
Oh.
Excuse me. What are you
Mom! Not first!
What are you doing?
No, nothing.
Doing your Fortnites? You should be doing your
Stop,
chores.
Mom, stop.
Are you ready for bed?
Yes.
Have you brushed your teeth?
I don't know. Last I checked, I don't know.
Brush your teeth. Are you kidding?
5 minutes, Mom. 5 minutes.
Let's turn it off. Get up. Do it now.
Great. Do it. There.
Okay, I'm getting your father. No, I'm getting your father. What did I say about picking up your shoes?
Okay, I will in a minute.
Pick them up now. Come on.
Oh my gosh, Mom! All right. Okay. Now what?
Watch it.
I picked them up. Now what? Are we out of water bottles?
Yes, I'm going to the store today. What are you doing?
We don't have any water bottles!
Young man.
What?
I know you're avoiding your chores.
I'm going to the bathroom.
No, get out now. Come on.
Oh, so now I'm not allowed to poop? I can't even poop?
Quit saying that. Are you?
Okay.
Turn the lights off.
Oh my god.
What you doing?
I'm watching a video.
What video are you watching?
Nothing.
What? Come on.
Vlog, I'm watching Jake Paul. Can I be excused?
Can you be excused? What?
Please.
Yes, you may. Hey, push your chair in, boy.
What? Oh my gosh.
You must like
What?
it.
Hey, push the chair.
Time to go back to the orthodontist.
What am I going back?
Why not?
'Cause it hurts. I'm not going back, and he's weird. It's full. It's full. What do you want?
Not full. That's
It's
not
full. Run it.
So if all your friends jumped off a bridge, you would too.
Push you off.
What?
Huh?
Nothing.
You say what I think you just
No,
said?
nothing. I didn't say.
You off a break.
No, I didn't
Here
even
we go.
say that. I didn't promise.
really?
I didn't even say that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm running away from home. I hate everyone. Okay, I'm back, but I'm not talking to anyone. I want to go to that movie. I want to see it.
You're not old enough. Sorry.
She gets to go.
Because she's older.
Oh, it's so unfair.
Is that a it?
What?
Puberty.
Stop. What? That's weird.
Do you have armpit hair? Come
Oh
on.
my gosh, Mom.
Yeah, you got
Stop.
some
All right, so you guys get the point. And again, those of you that have had kids that have come through the middle school years, some of these may hit. I'm just up here, I'm giggling because this is my life right now with an 8th grader. But you'll hear words like unfair and sometimes they talk and they say stuff and they have absolutely no idea that they've even said it. And it's just amazing kind of the transformation that we see kids go through from when they get to us, and they're these sweet, wonderful little 5th graders, and I just love being around them. And then they get through and they get 6th grade, and then 7th grade, and 8th grade, and by the time, next thing you know, we're walking them across the bridge to the high school, and they've become truly young adults. I'd like to have Mr. Chisholm come out and Mrs. Needham, our guidance counselor. And for the next part of the presentation. So kind of differentiate what were the next couple slides, what to expect as an incoming 5th grader, and then the next one will be what to expect as a 6th, 7th, or 8th grader. Mr. Chisholm.
Sure. Hey, guys. 5th grade, big changes. And it can be a lot. It's a lot for students. It's been really interesting now traveling with the 6th graders, having been with them 4th grade, 5th grade, and 6th grade. And when I was with them in 4th grade, people talked a lot about the difference between the two buildings. And I was like, I don't know, I don't really see it. You just put the same campus, it's right around the corner. But when you think of some of the issues that present themselves in 5th grade, and then you can see the dynamics and the changes, just in terms of supervision is kind of a big deal. Students go from, in 4th grade, they're kind of always moved from one place to another, to then transitioning themselves really across the entire building. And that can be a lot for students. Lockers, difference in teachers. Now the 5th grade team, this current 4th graders going into 5th grade is a smaller group. So the current 5th graders is one of our larger groups. It's close to 150, 155 students. So the 4th graders going into 5th grade next year, it's going to be a smaller group, and so sometimes they usually have the same language arts and social studies teacher. So there's not as much change from one teacher to the next as you would kind of imagine. It's not like some of the older grade levels where they have an individual teacher for social studies, language arts, science, and math, and so there's all this movement. Usually it's a larger block between language arts and social studies, so they're spending an extended time with one period, very similar to how they would do in 4th grade. So for as much movement as there is, it's still kind of contained within an area, a small area of the building. And so for a lot of students, it's really a nice balance between, being so restrictive in 4th grade in the sense that the movement has to be prescribed. We're going to take a break. To where in 5th grade, they get a lot of natural breaks. They're moving from one class to the next. They're going and getting things from their locker. They're moving in and out of their exploratories kind of at their own pace. So I would say for most students, it's a really welcomed change to, kind of embracing the middle school culture. So let's see, teachers, courses, 5th grade. Lockers, lunches. Lunch is a big deal. It's a big deal in middle school. Where you sit and how you see yourself socially, and it can mean the world to the kids. And to us, sometimes it might seem silly, but to them, it might be everything. And so we try and respect that as much as possible and help them make good choices for them. So in terms of the cafeteria, the kids really can come in and they choose the seat they want. We eventually kind of lock them into place and then kind of handle movements on a kid-by-kid basis, because believe it or not, where you sit in a cafeteria and where you can and can't sit can often be used as a weapon. You know, you can't sit here is something that we hear and something that we have to be cognizant of, and how friends are working to manage conflict as opposed to ostracizing each other. So in the cafeteria, the kids get to sit across the grade level with whomever they want to sit with, but then we kind of work constructively with them to make good choices. Additionally, they have an extended lunch period, which is kind of like recess. Anytime it's over 40, we go outside, which is great because the kids get to use the Ninja Warrior course, which they love. And then when it's under 40 degrees, we generally stay inside and stay in the gymnasium. So the day for 5th grade can be full of all sorts of variation between both sitting time and kind of having movement and break. 6th through 8th grade, just in terms of changes, they do become a little more specialized depending on, you know, which their grade level, how large or small their grade level is, whether or not they're going to have an individual teacher for each subject area. So there can be a little bit more movement amongst teachers. As far as exploratories go, there's some small changes and some really big changes. How they take Spanish, how they take design learning, kind of changes throughout the grade. You can see the progression of the design learn process. They can start in 5th grade taking design learn, digital literacy, thank you. And then it kind of moves into design learning, and then 7th and 8th grade it moves into STEM, and then you kind of see the wealth of courses available at the high school for you know, industrial arts and robotics and media production, and all that kind of gets set in the middle school when they get that early exposure to STEM. Any other changes in exploratories? So 5th grade, and you guys will see once we start to bring around the information for how the kids are going to enroll in their 5th grade exploratory classes. 5th grade's a little more prescriptive. If you take part in band, and you can do band, you can do band and chorus, or you can just do chorus. And if you do band and chorus in Spanish, you know, you can end up with a really narrow path. So your choices for exploratories in 5th grade really depend on whether or not you do band, chorus, or Spanish. But we'll explain all that in its kind of fine details. Obviously, content gets harder. You know, people will say, oh man, 6th grade math is tough. Oh, 7th grade math is tough. 8th grade math is tough. You know, the content gets rigor. Middle school is kind of where the rubber meets the road for students who have been able to really excel without much practice at home. Middle school is kind of where they figure out, oh man, my big brain is not going to carry me through this one. I'm gonna have to find the time to practice. And we have an abundance of time during the course of the day to practice, you know, when it's not always possible at home. So in terms of remediation and intervention, we have a variety of kind of things that we can provide students depending on their circumstances. There's always homework help is available before and after school. Any student can show up before or after school, and there's a tutor available to work on homework. We have Pirate Academy, which is like our REACH, for any of you involved in REACH at the elementary school. Pirate Academy is our after-school program. It involves both academic tutoring and enrichment programming. We do kind of a variety of things. You know, we have music classes. We're starting a drone academy in a couple weeks. We take the students swimming. They spend time outside. They do kind of outdoors activities. They are building a tree house right now out in the woods. So it's kind of our all-encompassing after-school program. There is a no new instruction time. I think pretty much just like the elementary school, we refer to it as ICE. This is where at your grade level block is all on kind of a common period, and there's no new instruction. So you can move in and around your grade level depending on what it is you need to accomplish. Do you need to see your science teacher? Does your math teacher want you for something? And so the kids kind of know on a day-to-day basis how they go about going to ICE. ICE is mixed in with connections. Somebody else is talking about connections. So sometimes you have ICE and sometimes you have connections. And Ms. Needham will probably talk about connections. Math lab, we'll have a math lab available next year. That's kind of like Math Wizards for any students involved at Math Wizards at the elementary level. Depending on your remediation scores and whether or not you need it, it happens during an exploratory period. So unlike the elementary school where you go to one exploratory per day, at the middle school level you get 2, and you get to have a lot of choice involved. So the nice thing about that is if you need some level of remediation that has to happen during the day, or you need, for example, it says here, life skills is another course we offer where there's a tutor working with students on individual skills or homework or remediation. Those classes can happen during one of your exploratory blocks so that you can still have another one. So you can take math lab like you would Math Wizards, but you can also have gym, at the same time. So it's nice that we have 2 blocks that we can kind of play with. Whereas alternatively, you might end up with a math or reading lab, and then you wouldn't be able to take any other kind of, fun course. Special education services obviously are available K through 12. Having gone through the RTI process, if that's something that's recommended, if your son or daughter has a disability, or there's a perception that they have one, we can obviously take them through the process in the same way the elementary school would. Working lunches, Wednesday schools and Saturday schools. For you 4th graders, it's new territory. We do have a few more options in terms of both discipline, consequences, and time that's available for students to work should they choose to. Working lunches happen on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's a 40-minute lunch block because there's the lunch and the recess. Teachers assign students working lunches if there's something they need to do during that time, make up a test, finish a piece of homework. Students can also just walk into working lunch and have a silent working period where they can get things done. We also assign Wednesday schools and Saturday schools. Those are generally used for behavioral consequences. Wednesday school runs until about 5:30 and Saturday school is 9 to noon. Neither is particularly fun. We use them sparingly, but they do exist, and generally nobody likes them. Okay, that's it.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Needham, and I'm the school counselor. So if you're in 4th grade, you'll be able to see where my office is, and if you ever need any help with anything, that's where you'll be finding me. This is an overview of the registration process. Registration guides will be on the middle school website. We brought a few with us, but if you would like to see it there, it'll be posted there. Our parent night, obviously, is tonight. In the coming weeks before the 14th of February, I will be meeting with students in 6th grade, 7th grade, and 5th grade to choose their classes for next year. 4th grade students will go to Mrs. McMurtry, and they all go to music there, so we figured that's where we would do it this year. And you will get something that looks similar to that paper up there, 4th graders. And what we'll need to know from you is if you're taking band or chorus, or band and chorus, and then if you're in Spanish. If you're in band and chorus, we know the exploratories that you're going to take. And if you're in band and chorus and Spanish, you'll get to choose 2 extra exploratories. So that will be coming home. Mom and Dad look for that within the next week or 2 so that they can select their exploratories. Let's see if this will work. Infinite Campus has been a little bit slow. So this is for kids that are going to be 6th graders, 7th graders, or 8th graders at the middle school. 5th graders, incoming 5th graders, we'll do it for you. You're just going to tell us if you're in band or chorus, and if you're in Spanish, you get to pick 2 more courses. Students at the middle school, you're actually going to pick your classes yourself, just like we did last year, and students who are 5th graders now, you'll get to do this in Infinite Campus. And parents, you have this same feature if you go into Infinite Campus, that you can do it for them. A lot of kids, when I go into their classes, they're like, oh, my mom already did it. So you can do it yourself. It looks a little bit different than it did last year. So on the left side, you'll click More, And then you'll look for course registration, Perry Middle School, add courses. And then whatever grade level your child is in, or students, whatever grade you're in, you'll type in grade 8, and my son is in 8th grade, and then it pulls up the courses that he can take. And my son is not in band or chorus, so he will have strength and fitness all year, and then he'll select 2 other courses, and he's in Spanish, so he has to pick that, and then he has 1 other course to pick. And you just hit the plus sign, and it should load it. So it was successfully added, and I will do this with your children in their classes. This is the math track at the middle school. The ODE recommended path in 5th grade, they'll start in Math 5, Math 6, Math 7, Math 8, and then at the high school they would move on into Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, and as far as they'd like to go with that. The second pathway has some prerequisites. For example, teacher recommendation, grades are looked at, state test scores, district scores, and that can determine eligibility into the second path, and that's Math 5, 6, Math 6, 7, Math 7, 8, and then Honors Algebra 1 at the middle school, and then moving on to Honors Algebra 2 at the high school. This is the Spanish pathway. The Spanish pathway can begin at the elementary school. Students who take Spanish in 3rd and 4th grade will continue on and take Spanish in 5th grade, and they will finish Spanish 1 in 5th grade, and they'll receive their high school credit for it. And then in 6th grade, they'll take Intro to Spanish 2, that is not a credited class. And then in 7th and 8th grade, they'll get their second credit in Spanish. And then when they go to the high school, they can take Spanish 3. If students did not take Spanish at the elementary school, they can take Path 2, and they can start with Spanish in 6th grade. And then they'll leave the middle school with 1 Spanish credit, and then can finish out at the high school with Spanish 2 and Spanish 3 if they would like. Yes.
No.
If they're not taking it at elementary school, they can start it in 6th grade, no credit in 6th grade for any students, then they can take it in 7th, and they'll have 1 credit if they take it in 7th and 8th. You have to take it in both 7th and 8th grade to get the full credit. So they get half of it 1 year and the other half the other year.
All right, so what does all this mean? So to make this process easier for you and your student, we're going to be doing a lot of the preliminary registration work with Mrs. Needham, with students in the classroom. As she said, she will be going down to the elementary school in Mrs. McMurtry's classes to carry that out for our incoming 5th graders next year. One of the things that I suggest is that you discuss with your student the options that are available to them, keeping in mind their interest, strengths, areas, and their areas of growth. Also keep in mind that honors or accelerated and high school credit classes will require significantly higher levels of out-of-classroom work. One of the things that you'll notice when you do get into the registration guide is that each year as they go through the middle school, the offerings, there's more of a choice. And so we offer that split math pathway beginning in grade 5. In grade 7, we add honors language arts. In grade 8, we add a honors social studies and an honors science course as well. And there are times in which, parents and students will look at that and they're like, I want to take all honors classes. And one of the things that, I think that's great, but one of the things that you also have to kind of keep in mind as you're jumping into that and stretching yourself is that you really are going to be pushing yourself. I can't tell you how many conversations that I've had with students and parents in the 8th grade year for a student who is taking, a high school credit math class, an honors science class, an honors social studies class, an honors language arts class, and a high school credit Spanish class, as well as trying to fit in like a high school credit strength and fitness. And they're starting to lose their minds. These are kids, they're also, participating in a sport, or they're in the musical, or, and they can't get all the work done. And what I tell them is the 8th grade could possibly be your hardest year of school in terms of just the amount of work that you have at one time. When they go to the high school runs a block schedule. So very often you're only taking 1 or 2 core classes in addition to 2 electives. The classes are longer, they're 80 to 90 minutes long, and they only last a semester. And then second semester you take the other half of your schedule. And so the amount of homework and the amount of studying is reduced significantly when they go from 8th to 9th grade. So just something to think about. If you know that your child, hey, sometimes homework is a little bit of a struggle, that's a conversation that you might want to have for them. And if it's something that they're really interested in doing and they want to put that commitment forward and they want to make that effort, then absolutely, look at the honors and the accelerated programming as they progress through the middle school. But just something to keep in mind. One of the other things we'll be doing is we'll be sending home with your student a printout. So you'll get a printout before everything is locked in, sometime probably in the next month or so, for you to review with your son or daughter. In terms of, okay, these are the classes that we've registered for. These are the classes that we're gonna take next year, and you'll sign off on that. You'll return it back to the middle school office or to the elementary school, so that we kind of have a confirmation that you're on board with it. Because there are times where they'll do this in classroom, and then maybe you get in at home and you make a change because you didn't like something that they did, and they go back in before we do the printout and they change it back. That has happened before. So we're always going to send home a printout with confirmation so that you have the ability to look at that before it gets locked into Infinite Campus for next year. Mr. Chisholm mentioned Connections. Connections is something that we're doing, it's a little different, something new that came about for the 2019-20 school year. A lot of research, especially at the middle school level, talks about the need for an advisory type of environment, a situation in which you can put small groups of kids with an adult, establish and build connections and relationships in almost a non-academic setting. So while there is some academic counseling that is part of what Connections is, the idea is more about relationship building, giving students the opportunity to connect with an adult, to kind of have that kind of advisee type of relationship throughout the course of the year. We are making a minor adjustment to how that's going to look next year. This year, we have 21 minutes of no new instruction time. That's somewhere during the middle of the day. And we have 21 minutes of the end of the day for Connections. We've moved the schedule around slightly so that ICE and Connections are together, and that creates like a 38, 39-minute block. So students will probably have that intervention, no new instruction time, 3 days a week, and then advisory or Connections 2 days a week. Or if we're doing something as a school that would require a little bit more time for one or the other, we can make that adjustment. So all that'll happen at the end of our instructional day. That being said, last part of this is questions and answers. Some years I have lots of questions, some years I don't, and hopefully I have lots of answers if you have lots of questions. So, questions. And I prefer to walk around with the mic as opposed to have to push the button. Yes, ma'am.
Spanish. Is it required? Do they have to take Spanish?
They do not have to take Spanish at the middle school. And I don't think they have to take it at the high school either. However, if your son or daughter is looking to go to college, colleges look for a certain number of world language units prior to going to school, and I believe it's 3. Is it 3? Depends on the school. In order to get an honors diploma in Ohio, and it's been a long time since I've been a high school principal, so this may have changed. I believe you have to have 3 high school credits of world language. It doesn't have to be Spanish. Spanish is what we currently offer. I do know that the high school offers a College Credit Plus class in American Sign Language. ASL is considered a world language that would count towards that as well. Whether or not they still have that, though, when kids get to the high school in 3 or 4 years, that's up to Lakeland because they're the ones that provide that. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
They do the 2 classes in middle school if they didn't have it in elementary school.
They'll leave here with 1 credit. They do 2 more classes, Spanish 2 and Spanish 3. If you are going to, you could also do, so it's 3 credits, or you could do 2 of one and 2 of something else. So if you're, they took the 2 Spanish, decided, I don't like Spanish, I want to take sign language, 2 and 2, I think equates to the 3. But don't quote me on that. Yes?
Sixth graders take STEM.
So we've kind of rebranded it a little bit. So while in the course code says STEM, for actually 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, the course title is changed to Design Learning. So 5th graders take Digital Literacy. 6th grade is Design Learning 6, Design Learning 7, Design Learning 8. It is all the STEM related stuff. It's just in order to be consistent with what the elementary school was calling it and what the high school was calling it, we changed from STEM to Design Learning. It's the same course. Any other questions? Yes?
In 6th grade, they get 4 similar also?
It depends. So you have, yeah, if you're in band choir or band in choir counts as 2. So if you think of it that way, it counts as 2, and then they would get to pick 2 others.
Have only in 8th grade. Oh, that's only in 8th grade.
Yes.
So they can get like a gym.
Yep, phys ed is a semester. STEM or Design Learning is a semester. Exploratory, Spanish is a semester. They're all semesters with the exception of band, choir, or band and choir. And then we also run a year-long phys ed for those that aren't in band and choir. Yes, yes. Yes. Yeah, the 5th grade run a 9-week rotation. So the kids get to explore all of the different departments within the exploratories in fine arts, and then they start to kind of pick and choose what they want. Yes? Yes.
If they just do band, no choir, is that?
Bands every day, choirs every day, and then some kids take band and choir, and they kind of alternate. Yeah. Correct. Digital literacy would be in 5th grade. Gym would be one of the 9 weeks. Yes. Yes. Choir also. Or you could do both, but it counts as 1, 2. Right? And they work it out. So like they know, like the kids that are, one day is a band day, then the next day is choir day, and then like every other Friday or something, it kind of revolves as they need it. They've got it all worked out back there in the music department.
STEM 6th or 7th grade?
You do not.
You can just hop into that later.
However, I would recommend digital literacy because there is a lot of like typing involved. And so while that may sound like horrific to those of us that sat through a typing class, are the kids as they've, these kids have been on computers their whole lives, but if you ever watch them sit in front of a keyboard, they really have they don't seem to really understand where your hands go in order to be efficient in doing that. And so the longer they struggle with that, the harder it is when they have to start typing like long papers and stuff like that. And so it was kind of a need. It was something that we kind of embedded into STEM all along the way, and we just identified it as, hey, this is a significant issue, that the dexterity and the speed at which kids are trying to move around the keyboard. I mean, kids were doing this. And when they're in 8th grade and you're trying to write a 4 or 5 page paper, it just takes forever, or your mom or dad are typing for you as you're telling them what to write. It also is an introduction into like Microsoft Excel. So those kids are actually able to do stuff with spreadsheets that, I have to ask my secretary to do for me because I'm just not good with Excel. They learn the entire Google suite of apps, which is helpful, as they go through, especially through middle school and high school. In the back. I think this was the first word you said, mechanics? Okay, I wasn't sure. It's going to be on the sheet that comes home. In order to, because of the way we run, so like some of our phys ed will run all year long. Some of them will run 9 weeks in 5th grade. Everybody else will run them on semesters. In order to keep from having to like redo each of those as different classes, I deleted that language. But for 5th grade, with the exception of band and choir, which we know runs every day, all year long in all grades, you've got phys ed, which could run for a year in all grades. 5th grade, everything else is 9 weeks. Except for Spanish. Spanish is all the Spanish classes are a semester. And then 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, everything else is semesters.
In 5th grade, you'll get a paper like this that will come home to you, and it'll spell it out. If you're in band and choir and you're in Spanish, pick 2 exploratories. If you're doing band and choir and you don't have Spanish, these are the 4 exploratories that you are taking. Perfect. Okay. If you're not in band and choir, you're taking gym, and these are the exploratories you are taking. Does that make sense?
Yes, so that's the information.
That's a lot easier, better response. Yeah, that's why she's here. Anything else? Yes.
Say the student is between 5th and 6th grade, and it's recommended that the student goes to Path 2. Is that communication on that paper when they transition? You said
You mean the math path?
Yes.
So I'm in 5th grade, I'm in Math 5, and there's a recommendation for that student to jump into the Pathway 2.
It would come home on the paper that has the classes that they selected. So we'll preload the 4 classes. So if your child was recommended for Path 2, it would be on that sheet that you're going to sign that has their exploratories and their 4 classes loaded into it.
And so his question was jumping from one path into the next. So my assumption would be, making an assumption, is that the teacher has communicated this with you already. And so in order to go from Math 5 into Math 6 and 7, there's a gap of instruction. And so what we generally do is those kids then are recommended for summer stretch. They would finish the 5th grade curriculum so that they had it all, so they could jump into or actually, no, they would start the 6th grade. It would be whatever the standards are that they're missing. As a result, it would be the 6th grade piece, so they could jump into that 6-7 class. Doesn't happen often, but we've had it happen before, and those kids do make it up in the summer.
What are the exploratory offerings?
So we offer art in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We offer band and choir in all 4 grades. We offer a music class. It's a stringed music class in 5th grade, and they use primarily ukuleles. However, there are some 5th graders whose hands are large enough to use the guitars. That would be a course that a kid could take that is not in band and choir, so they could get some of that music, even though they're not in the band and choir for the full year. We offer Spanish in all 4 grades. So you have those kids that have taken Spanish from the elementary school up. So Spanish in 5th and 6th grade would be for high school credit. Well, the 5th grade would finish credit 1, then they would move into introduction to Spanish 2, then 2A, 2B. We offer exploratory Spanish in 6th grade, phys ed 5, 6, 7, strength and fitness in 8, design learning, digital literacy in grade 5, so design learning 6, 7, 8. Entrepreneurship is a new class that we started this year. It's called Entrepreneurial Learning. That's an 8th grade course. And those kids are getting into some of the basics of how to be an entrepreneur and entrepreneurship. We also offer something called the Alpha Project in 8th grade, which is kind of problem-based learning. Where they go with that is kind of up to them, but it's a project-based learning type of situation with our gifted coordinator, Mrs. Hicks. I'm sorry? Life skills, math lab, pathways in grade 5. Pathways is kind of like an introduction to middle school. Some study skills, some culture, climate stuff. It's another, I don't think we even talked about pathways. Any other questions? That's a good question. We should have a slide with all of those on them. We used to. I must have gotten rid of it. Yes?
So for the classes that run 9, so digital literacy, for example, if you were to take that for one of those 9, would it be recommended that she doesn't take it again? Would the curriculum be the same each 9 weeks? Or
Yeah, yes, the curriculum would be the same. Yeah, so you would only take that one once. Do you have a question, hon? Raise your hand. Pink, the pink coat. The little one here in the pink coat, raise your hand. No question? Okay. Last question.
Who's the best teacher?
Who is the best teacher? Well, Mr. Ruska is pointing at Mrs. Singer. Mrs. Singer, wave to this is our chorus choir teacher, Mrs. Singer. For those of you that are on Facebook, you would have seen a picture of, 4 kids or 5 of your kids that made the All-Ohio Honors Choir in Cincinnati this week. Mr. Ruska is our high school band director. He also helps us with the middle school. So if you have any band or choir related questions, they would be your go-tos because they can explain to you how all that works. Mr. Bales? Well, I've heard that. All right, thank you very much. I'm glad, great questions. If you do have further questions, something that you didn't think of, you walked out, you're like, man, I wish I would have asked that, you can email any one of us and we'll get back to you with an answer. Thank you.
When you smile, does the whole world smile with you? Dr. Rusty Albrecht, Dr. Chandis Richards, and Dr. London Albrecht are committed to improving your smile. At Albrecht Family Dentistry, we can handle all your dental needs, including dental implants, crowns, dentures, partials, relines, extractions, root canals, veneers, tooth whitening, and clear braces. Don't let anything stand between you and the smile that you've always wanted. Call 440-358-0495.